Okay, hi everybody. I've been really enjoying reading your posts, and it seems that most people are keeping up with your reading for your quizzes, so that's great. I do hope people are watching this video. Obviously preaching to the choir, but not sure that everybody's always watching the videos, so want to be sure that you guys keep doing this, what you're doing right now. I will promise to keep it brief and hopefully relevant. But for instance, today, I want to tell you a little bit about what's expected for this week, because this is your first assignment. So this is your big first assignment. And it counts as 25% of your grade. So you definitely want to put some work into this. And you are going to be submitting both a recorded version of your story as well as the actual story and a recorded version of your process narrative. Okay, so you can do that either just audio, that's fine, or you can do both video and audio. And I want to point out that there is a pedagogical reason for this. I think I've mentioned that before, which is that I really want everyone to read out loud. It is one of the best ways to edit anything, any piece of writing, is to read it out loud. You will hear where the grammar might be off, or where the cadence is off, or where something sounds a little stilted or too formal. And I also get to hear your voices, which is always a treat. So I will obviously be reading it as well. You'll be submitting it as a written post, both the story and the process narrative, and I will be listening to it. Okay, so the process narrative is pretty straightforward. So basically, you're submitting your 3 to 5 page revised story using my edits and using edits from your peers. And I did include a rubric below, so you can see that in your weekly content folder for how I will be looking at it. And it should be a radical revision, right? So you're not just changing a word here or there, you're really taking what you've been learning and applying it to your story so that you are going deep in the weeds with your story and doing the absolute best job you can, okay? And then you're going to talk about that process. And these are some of the questions that you're going to be addressing. Please do not shortchange your process narrative. This is a huge part of your grade. Okay, so this is really where I find out that, maybe your story's not perfect yet. And I put perfect in quotes because I don't believe there's any perfect piece of writing, but, maybe you're still struggling with a lot of the technique. Here is where I find out how much you've actually learned. You might not be able to showcase that yet in terms of mastery of the technique. I'm interested, though, in how much you've actually learned and absorbed from what we've been doing in class. All right, so do not shortchange these, especially not, and this is going to be such a boon for anybody who's watching the video, this 2-page response, okay? This is where you are really digging into a model. And it doesn't, sometimes I get, because I ask about influence, I get writers sometimes, students writing back, oh, nothing influenced me, so there's nothing I need to write about here. No. You're not reading and writing in a vacuum, right? All writing is influenced in some way. And I want you to think, we've been reading a lot in our textbook, and I've been asking you a lot to think about technique in terms of what techniques the writers in our textbook are using and mastering and modeling for you. And so even if you're not directly influenced, you might say, okay, I've been really struggling with dialogue. And, Karen Russell does dialogue beautifully. So here is how I see her, why I think it's effective, and really using, again, quoting from our textbook, right, about dialogue, and going in and showing me how you can apply that to your reading of Karen Russell's dialogue. And again, that's just an example, okay? Jhumpa Lahiri's dialogue, or whatever craft aspect you want to focus on. Okay, so that is due for this week, and you really want to put some work into that. Okay, and again, I say do not shortchange this part of your assignment. Okay, really be in depth, give it work, revise it, go to the writing center. Okay, have somebody, a tutor, look over it for you. This is a polished assignment, and anybody who's taken my class before knows that I grade fairly rigorously, right? Because you've been given a lot of feedback, you've been given a lot of input, and now I really want to see you putting that to work. All right. The other thing I want to talk about is your podcast guidelines. All right. So let me just open that up for you. You are being asked to, whoop, I'm going to have to reshare here. You are being asked to create a podcast with another student, and I've paired you up. There's one of you has three, is a pair of three, so not really a pair, a threesome. Please look on announcements, and also in our content folder, you can find your name and who your partner is. This is due Friday, May 6th. So you have plenty of time, but get started early. That is my big advice to you. Get started early, okay? If you have a partner that does not get back to you, if you've reached out to that person, write to me immediately, right? CC me on emails if you'd like to do that. But I need to know if you're not, hearing back. Okay, so you're basing this on one of the New Yorker podcasts, which will give you an idea of how to interview and discuss a model work. All right, and I will let you read through these guidelines here. But I want to, really stress that you are asking. So you're going to be looking at both your partner's work, and you're going to comment on what's really working in that text, in your partner's text, right? So I really love how you use interiority in your story, right? So you're reading your partner's story, you're reading the partner's process narrative, and it can be from this assignment, or it could be from assignment number 2. Obviously, if you're going to be starting earlier, which is what I suggest you take it from assignment number 1. Assignment number 2 is going to be late in the game, although you could get started theoretically on the rest of this, before that. But you want to read your partner's story, read your partner's process narrative, and then come up with really what your partner's doing well, okay, and why, how is your partner showcasing technique? And then you're going to be talking about the model story as well, okay? So these guidelines are pretty straightforward. My tips are: begin by introducing your peer as well as yourself. Tell us the title of your peer's story, which of them are model stories, and which aspect of craft you will be referring to. The model story has to be a story that we have read in class. Assume the audience has already read the model story as well as your peer's essay, your peer's process essay and story. And also the podcast should be entertaining and informative, because remember, it's the end of the semester and I'm going to want to be entertained while I listen to these, okay? And be sure to ask your peer questions in all 3 categories, and I delineate what those are up here. Okay, I'm going to stop there, and again, promise to make it short. So this is short, but I did want to touch on what is due this week and what, looking ahead is coming down the pike for you guys. All right, have a great writing weekend. Reach out to me if you have any questions.